Okay, up next in character creation is Pathfinder Second Edition. So I went through this off screen because I have yet to even play Second Edition. So this whole concept was kind of like I was scratching my head trying to figure it out. So I had to kind of go through it to make sure that I wasn't sitting here bumbling and fumbling over my words. So now Second Edition is kind of like in a sense a modification of first edition, which was based off of the D20 system. So I am going to go back and redo like a character creation for second edition for first edition Pathfinder, because personally, my opinion is that first edition is still viable even with second edition. So now, like I said, I did this kind of off screen to kind of get the good, in a sense, understanding of the system and everything. So now again, I have yet to play this, so I would love to be able to get into this and everything. So now I'm probably going to bounce this off my group, my D&D group. But hey, look, let's get into Pathfinder and everything. So chances are I will probably do like pre-generated characters, but for this video, this is the character creation. So first off, like any character, we're going to start off with a name. So I'm using my name, Renarius Ashkevron, as my character name. Now, then we move to ancestry. So that's basically like, in a sense, like in D&D and first edition Pathfinder, that's your race. So I decided to go with the orc ancestry. So now that gives like a different like boost to the different abilities and everything. So I'll basically be going down line by line and everything. So background, I decided to go with the gladiator background because like, okay, well, orcs are kind of like the type of stereotypically barbarians, fighters, and stuff like that. So there is no barbarian class in second edition, at least in the core rulebook here. So I was basing everything on just the core rulebook in this. So I decided to go with a fighter, figuring, okay, I want to play like your stereotypical fighter and everything. So that's why I went with orc, gladiator, and fighter. So now with the heritage and traits and everything, I decided to go with the battle ready orc. And then size, it's the same kind of concept in D&D and the first edition Pathfinder as medium. So I started off also at level 1. Now, with the orc, I get what are called boosts. So you don't necessarily start off with like in a sense, like abilities like 18 in strength to 10 in charisma or whatever. What you do is you start off with just the modifiers. So like with the orc, I get two bonuses to like whatever I get, and like plus with my class, I also get like a bonus to that too and everything. So like, and plus like my background, I also get bonuses too. So or as in this case, boosts and everything. So I got a total of like a +5 now. Like the fighter, I had to do like either strength or dexterity. So what I did is I boosted the strength up a total of +3 and constitution +2. So like through my background and my ancestry, I boosted both strength and constitution up by 2. In my fighter, I also increased strength by another 1. So I got a +3 strength and a +2 constitution, figuring, hey, look, I'm a fighter, so I now the fighter class in here says the primary attributes are strength and dexterity. I figure since I kind of want to be like a melee type of fighter, I went with strength and constitution. So that's hence the +3 +2. Now I didn't do any character flaws, which would in a sense decrease the uh, abilities like to -1 or whatever. I figure we just do boosts and everything. So that if I was the DM, for instance, I wouldn't necessarily do flaws unless it was stated in like the character creation for the class or whatever. So that's why I didn't go with the negatives. So now moving down, like I'll get into like armor class for that eventually, but like I'm going to move down here. And now skills, the way the skills work is you actually get they have different levels. So like you can zoom in, pause and zoom in. So each skill is in a sense trained, expert, master, and legendary. So each, in a sense, each level gives you like either going from trained all the way up to expert. So +2, +4, +6, and +8. So with abilities, I was able to start off with like either acrobatics or athletics for fighter, and plus the three, 3 plus my intelligence modifier. So like I also had, because of Orc, I also had the lore and gladiatorial with the background gladiator. So I had the gladiator, plus I went with acrobatics for my like a class skill, plus the three abilities I chose. Athletics, figuring like, hey, that like being the typical fighter, I want to do something like athletics. I also with being an orc, I figured I came from nature, and I also being a gladiator, I went with the performance and survival. So like a performance is a kind of like a gladiator based. So like with the +3, I also went with survival, the nature and athletics. So then I write in like my ability modifier, my proficiency modifier, plus items and armor and stuff. So like for instance, acrobatics. Now I forgot to take away the armor that I'll get into like later for acrobatics, but for right now I'll just say it's +2. Athletics, I take my +3 strength. My proficiency with being trained is +2. Item 0, and I'll get into armor later, but +5. Intimidation, I have 0 charisma, +2 for being trained, +0 for items, so it would be a 2. The same thing with gladiatorial lore. 0 intelligence, 2 proficiency, 0 items, +2. That's how the skills work. So now if I had upped them to like maybe expert, it would be +4, so that would be bumped up to +4. So now I move back up to like the saving throws. So I do like the in a sense the ability modifier. So like for fortitude, my it's constitution, which is +2. My proficiency, you either like based on like your class or like your your class, you get either start off at expert or trained. So like with the fighter, I started off with expert in fortitude, reflex, and trained in willpower. So proficiency there would be +4 for both fortitude and reflex, and a +2 for will. So since my con is +2, as you can probably see, I mean the pencil I use is kind of light. So that fortitude is +6, reflex is +4, and will is +2. So now moving over here to hit points. Each in a sense, ancestry gets a certain amount of hit points to start off with. So like an orc, for instance, got 10 hit points to start with, and then what you do is you get the typical like a character class hit points as well. So a fighter gets 10 +2 or plus whatever constitution bonus you get. So that's how many you get per level. So like my constitution being +2, I would get 12 hit points per level. So that's why I start off with 22 hit points. 10 for the ancestry of orc, plus the 10 for my class, plus the 2 for like constitution, which starts me off at 22. Now proficiency, go down to languages. Being an orc, I start off with the common and orcish languages, and perception is like start off like just like the skills. You get trained, expert, master, or legendary. So I was like off the top of my head, I say like I want to say it's class, but people can correct me if it's actually ancestry, because this is the first time I've done it. But like I started off with expert, which is +4, and since my wisdom is 0 and I don't have any items that boosted up, my perception is 4. Speed, and you can find that in the ancestry for orcs, is 25. So I didn't really do anything for senses or notes and special movements and stuff. And of course, now moving down to like weapons, I decided, since one of the things that orcs get is or like a orc familiarity. So I'll flip the page over quick and go through the actual like in a sense skill feats and like class feats and stuff. So through gladiator, I got like intimidating glare, and then ancestry feat, I got the orc weapon familiarity. So like the orc neck splitter, I'll talk about. This is why I was able to take that, because like the orc weapon familiarity lets you use like orc based weapons like the orc neck splitter. Now for fighter skills, I went with like the stuff that you get at level 1, and plus like any class skills and everything. So like I went with impressive performance through like background of a gladiator, reactive strike, shield block, and vicious swing for first level. Now for armor, like I went with full plate and steel shield. No, I kind of went loosey goosey with like kind of like being able to use like money for abilities and everything, but like abilities for equipment. But I figure since being a gladiator, I was probably able to get like a full plate and a steel shield and everything for my armor, which then I come back, get back into the AC. So now you have like with the AC base of 10, my dex is 0, and in the equipment you'll see that full plate is +6, hence the armor class is 16. Now here you can see like the shield icon. So I have a steel shield which gives +2. So technically my AC would be 18. So the reason why I wrote 16 here is so that way I know, oh hey, 16 plus 2, that's actually 18. So I don't do the 18 plus 2. Oh well, it's actually 20. So that way I did it that way. So that way I'm not confused. So that's the AC. And so now we move into like the weapons. So I went with the Orc Neck Splitter because like the Orc Familiarity feat that I had lets me use that as like kind of like a in a sense a martial weapon, and let me use in a sense down here the weapon proficiencies. Each class gets a proficiency based on like a whether untrained, trained, expert, master, or legendary. So first level fighter starts off with an expert in unarmed, simple, and martial weapons, and plus trained and advanced. So I get weapon like I decided like to do this real quick. I get trained, but since I have like I could probably consider that like a martial weapon with the Orc neck splitter, but I went with just the +2 proficiency, figuring like okay, it's advanced. Now it could be like depending on how like the way like I read it, I could actually do the +4, but I just went with the +2, just kind of like still trying to learn the rules and everything, having yet to play this myself. So I went with the 3 strength, the 2 proficiency for basically like the +5 for the melee attack. I also got like a hand crossbow for like as like a ranged attack just in case or whatever. And so like as a +2, so like as you can see, like it breaks it down. Like my dex is 0, item is 0, proficiency is 2, so that's why I got the +2. Wrote the damage for like the Orc Neck Splitter. It's 1d8. It's got the little bubbles here for B, P, and S, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. And so this one was slashing, and the same thing down here for the range strike. So this one is like a damage 1d6. It also talks about has little bubbles for B, P, and S, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. So this one is piercing. So I just did the little bubble like to explain what kind of damage it is. So now this isn't necessarily an all-inclusive video on the second edition character creation, but this is just like a kind of quick one to kind of give people like an idea on like, hey, look, this is how you do this and everything. So now there are some like online sources that you can use. I'd have to personally get into them because like I have yet to use them. So I just decided to get this real quick to not only learn for myself on how to be able to do a character for second edition Pathfinder, but to kind of showcase like, hey, look, here's a good here's the concept, at least the simple concept on how to create characters for second edition. So now a good way like what my D&D group did is, since there was like a few few people that hadn't played D&D before, we did pre-generated characters, and like were able to pick our own. So as a DM, if you're like for instance like just as a player just getting into it, like you could do a pre-generated character, or if you're a brand new group that's getting into Pathfinder, maybe you're coming from D&D or something, I would say get those pre-generated characters and everything. Could quite possibly do like a starter set and everything, which would be a good way to get into like to learn the mechanics. But here is a video to be able to say, hey, once you maybe move past that, or maybe you've played Pathfinder campaigns before, so this is kind of quick video that people can reference. Be like, hey, look, here's a quick video that you can reference to be like, oh, to kind of get the gist of how to do the second edition Pathfinder. So like I said earlier in the video, I will be going back to first edition because in my opinion first edition is still viable even with this out. So I went with second edition first because this is the most recent iteration of Pathfinder. So hopefully this will give people a good idea on how to at least a good general idea on how to build character sheets for Pathfinder second edition.